Welcome back, Meena. And dear participants, now we are going to have um, two sessions of tutorials. And I see maximum participants have joined in. So we can start with the tutorials. Meena, over to you.
Yes, thank you. So I was thinking of structuring the tutorial as follows. There are, for each tutorial, there is a Word doc, and the Word doc contains some prompts, some questions, issues we may want to reflect on. Before we start with the tutorials, I noticed that there are a couple of questions in the chat relating to the lecture that I like to respond to. I don't want to exclude anyone. So there was actually a question that I did not, I had not noticed. So can Foucault's critique help us resist the ways institutions shape our subjectivity? Was the earlier lecture. The short answer is yes. In fact, Foucault's notion of critique as this reflective indocility, this gentle turn, is all about resisting the force, the shaping force of institutions. But we may want to further the reflection, move on. And as I was saying in response to someone at the end of the lecture, we may want to rethink institutions as well. In other words, I think there is more to the idea of institutions as to than their forceful power, their oppressive power. We may want to rethink, just as we are rethinking the human, we may want to rethink institutions and, of course, subjectivity and the self. But the short answer to that is yes. Relating to the second lecture, someone asked, in fact, Anushri, apologize if I mispronounce your names, but Anushri asks, how can we look at these texts referring to HD and Rich from a perspective of the discursive power of language as being aimed at reconstructing narratives, especially those of a gendered experience of life? I think that's also, like the other questions, very apropos. These two texts, especially the two poems by H.D. and Rich, are about the reconstructive, the reparative power of language. That's why the texts themselves foreground a certain fragility, a thinness, but with that fragility, with the scenarios of destruction as well, although, as someone also pointed out, it's two different historical scenarios of destruction. That fragility and the scenarios of destruction are the gateway, however, to hope for a subtler, a more dynamic use of language, a reconstructive use of language. So, and finally, Priyanshu asks, with reference to the death of the author by Mr. Roland Barthes, who claims that writing seeks a systematic exemption of meaning. And the question is, does this endless deferral of meaning empower readers by granting them interpretive freedom, or does it create a crisis where meaning itself becomes unstable and unreliable? Again, very perceptive, because it does both in a way. And that's why we turn to the post-structuralist concept of the text and its limits, because it does both at the same time. It opens up, Barth's view of the text opens up a scenario of freedom whereby the meaning of a text is related, that is the outcome of much more than it's the capacity to communicate its content. It is a lot more. It's, for example, as Cixous says, there's something in text that calls me. So it's maybe it has an empathy. There is an empathetic pull of the reader, or there is a truth only that certain groups of readers may recognize. Whatever there is a lot more. So it's right to, in a way, cut off the umbilical cord that links a text to its message, to its communicative. At the same time, this overrun, this opening up of the space of meaning, does create a situation of instability, encourages instability and unreliability. Yes, and that's where we are at, I think, at the moment. As we are looking for ways to renew critique. Thank you for these questions. So what I would like to do is to move to the tutorial. I'd like to share the Word doc where I have listed a number of prompts. However, here I need the help of Rashni, our coordinator, because what I had in mind was a kind of group sessions whereby participants could perhaps form groups and discuss among themselves for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then convene together to share the outcome of the discussion. What do you think, Rashmi? Would this be possible?
Yes, absolutely. This should be possible.
So, if that is possible, I'm going to show the prompt with which I like to start. Let me share the screen with you so that I'm assuming all the participants have the Word doc, right, Rashni?
Yes, we have got it.
Perfect. Let me try and you should be able to see a a Word doc, right? Do you see a Word doc? Great. So I want to start actually with the reserve prompt, because I think it might be a good way to open up discussion. And that is Derrida's view of the text in Che cos'è la poesia, his 1988 essay. Remember the essay that, as I remarked in the lecture, shows a certain consciousness of the limits of the post-structuralist notion of text. The limits that the last comment in the chat has actually pointed out. So let me read the prompt to you. After that, and explicate a little bit where the questions come from. After that, I think participants should split up in groups and take 15 minutes at most for discussion and then reconvene. So in his essay, Che cos'è la poesia? What is poetry? The philosopher Jacques Derrida poses a question that brings in its trail related rippling questions. For what is poetry might extend to what is literature, and the latter might extend to what is the text, what is the literary text. So suppose these might be considered as interlocked questions. Then Derrida responds to the question with the image of the poem Animal. The poem, to describe the text, Derrida invokes the image of an animal. He proposes that the text is like an animal on the autoroute, rolled up in a ball. So the animal is in question is the hérisson. He calls it also the hérisson. He compares the text to a hérisson, an istrice in Italian, a prosaic hedgehog in English, because this is a creature that withdraws, a creature in withdrawal. If met by danger along the road, along the open autoroute, the hedgehog withdraws in self-defense. And Derrida, after having introduced this image of the poem Animal, writes, the poem addresses its reader. I am a dictation, pronounces poetry. Learn me by heart, copy me down, guard me and keep me. Look out for me. Look at me. Dictated dictation right before your eyes. This is on page 223. Those of you who are curious, they have the entire text of the essay for reflection. But now, what do you think? My question to you, the activity I propose is, what do you think Derrida contributes to the idea of the literary text? How might he change your familiar and our familiar idea, notion of the text? What might the image of a vulnerable creature exposed to danger? You may remember then, after the two lectures, that Derrida is not the only one who proposes a vulnerable creature, right? And we have seen the evolution of those vulnerable creatures as symbols of the text in HD and Abramovich. What might the image of a vulnerable creature exposed to danger and in withdrawal suggest? Why it should be why might it suggest a different view of the text? What might have prompted Derrida to use the animal image in the first place? So I'm going to just take these questions as cues, as starting points. You can add others. The point of the activity is to share your thoughts. To share your thoughts specifically about the image of the poor animal and Derrida's words, because they're not exactly transparent. I'm a dictation. Why a dictation? A dictation, it's something, a message that is so precious that everyone should know. Why learn me by heart? Something we learn by heart. Again, it's, texts that are learned by heart, for example, are texts that I think in all countries we are made to study at school because they are supposed to embody a national formation, a national knowledge. So, look at me, keep me, guard me. What is this about? What kind of idea of the text does this project? So I'm going to interrupt the sharing, stop the sharing, and if Rashni can take care of the groups, I would be very, very grateful. It's now let's say from 1:50 to 5 after 2. We reconvene at 15 minutes. 5 after 2, we reconvene for the global, more choral discussion. Yes, I already see Sumana. Absolutely, a vulnerable creature needs love and affection. So we shift from the register, the hermeneutic register, the interpreter who decodes, to the interpreter who cares as well. So love and affection, we are moving toward an affective register, care. Yes. So that's already a good point. That's exactly what I would like you to do in the group discussion. Share your thoughts, as Sumana is doing in the chat.
Yeah, I would ask the participants that if you know each other, if you're familiar with each other, you all can, maybe through your WhatsApp, you all can, chat and formulate a group, formulate, small groups. I know that if we allow you to use your microphones, I think one of you can only respond to it from the group rather than, and then you have to take your turn to respond, to step in. Or the best way would be to just, put your ideas in the chat box. So that we can.
Although Rashni, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would like to hear voices. It would be nice to hear voices. Let's try that. If technology does not allow, then we'll resort to writing.
No, definitely, it would allow. So, can we do that?
We can raise.
Okay, so you need to, as participants, yes, we're going to raise our hand, and then the team would allow you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So we take 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to mull over the idea.
15 minutes. Let's reconvene at 5 after 2.
Perfect. So 15 minutes to, 15 minutes to mull over the idea.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
we come back.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Okay, Rajni, perhaps we can reconvene. What do you think? You can ask the groups.
Yes, we can. So now we can invite the participants with their views. If they have,
Yes,
they can step
yes,
up.
yes. If they have a spokesperson, the spokesperson can maybe report on the discussion, the group discussion. All the groups will share their views so that we can then join in a larger discussion. Thank you. And then I will take some of the comments in the chat after that.
Yes. So I request you to raise your hand, and there's one who has risen his hand.
Yes.
So we'll invite.
Yeah, and Mohit, I see them.
Greetings, ma'am.
Greetings.
Okay, so ma'am, what I feel like the Derrida basically he reimagines the literary text as something which is very dynamic and uncertain, which lead to the endless interpretation, and what it is doing, like challenging traditional notions of fixed meaning.
Yes.
And where he also emphasized the vulnerability of text, where he says they're exposed to the reinterpretation and misreading, where the idea of where the idea of text being exposed to reinterpretation and misreading basically means that once a text is written and shared, it becomes vulnerable to multiple interpretations beyond the author's control. Like different readers bring their different perspectives and also their assumptions, which shape how they understand the text. And here Derrida likely chose this metaphor to uh, to ex- to express the unpredictable, and also we can say that the living nature of text, which is quite aligning with his post-structuralist sensibility. So
Yes.
Priyanshu, I would request you to turn on your camera. You've already been enabled to do so. If you'd like to see you, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. That was. I assume that was the report for the group's discussion, right, Priyanshu?
No, ma'am. Actually, it was my individual.
Your perspective. Your perspective.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would any other member of the same group or Priyanshu's group add anything before we move on to another group? If not, let me respond. Rashmi, can we follow this rhythm whereby the spokesperson shares his or her view and I can respond immediately? Can we use this format? Right. So, Priyanshu, thank you. I like the clarity of your take. I want to focus on the adjective unpredictable. Unpredictable, because Derrida's and in general the post-structural view or dream, I should say, of the text is about defending the unforeseen, what remains unthought, what remains in the folds of discourse, speaking of language, what remains in the fold of discourse, what remains in the folds of thought, what remains unthought. There is this anxiety about defending what remains repressed. Now, so unpredictable resonates with me, Priyanshu, because we're going to we will see that same concern with feminist thinkers, especially with non-Anglophone feminist thinkers. When we'll talk about, for example, Carla Lonzi, or Angela Putino. Now, back to the first part of your recap of Derrida. Absolutely, a dynamic. The stake is to think the text as a dynamic, shall we say, object thing, a dynamic thing that allows for, or to use Foucault's language, gives us the right to endless interpretation. But that's a beautiful summary you offer. What your comment allows us to see is to see beyond that. So what does this desire for the for endless interpretation? What is this state in desire for endless interpretation come from? Can we say, to simplify, and I apologize for the simplification, can we say that it is a desire brought on with at the same time as democracy, for example, a democratic view of literature, a more democratic view of literature that is nervous about, first of all, compartmentalizations within the same tradition. Secondly, I invoke Y.G. Dimock here. Secondly, remains perhaps ignorant about the way in which texts travel across space, not only time, but also across space and across different cultures. As a classic like, I don't know, just take Emily Dickinson, just to name a classic, or Thoreau, Walden. As Walden or Dickinson's poetry, or Jane Austen, travels to other regions of the world, what happens to those texts? So I would say it's nice to speculate, Priyanshu, about the desire behind, the assertion of the defense of the open horizon, in fact, the endless horizon of interpretation. So, very promising, exchange. The second part of your one last thing on the second part of your comment. The text exposed to reinterpretations. That's a very abstract way of saying that texts, yes, do not belong, the minute they are published, as you say, do not belong to their authors, but more to the point, the minute they are published, the minute they exist, texts do not belong to a country, do not belong to a culture, do not belong to a particular group. So texts are used for different purposes, because literature as its uses, otherwise it would not exist. There's a stake in literature. We are attached to it because it serves a purpose. And I think for most of us, if I understand the climate well, if I read the vibes well, for most of us, literature has an important use in society, can do something at the very least. So exposed to reinterpretation beyond the authors. Yes, that being exposed to interpretation is the point. Derrida, in the post-structuralist view of the text, frees the text from a fixed meaning. But I think the important point is, what do we mean by reinterpretations? Reinterpretations are also texts, for example, reinterpreted in different locations of the world. In other words, Ulysses by Joyce, read in Europe is one thing, read in Thailand or in Chile is something else. Thank you for your for your contribution.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving me this chance and platform for expression.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a pleasure. I see Mohit Kumar Aryan. I see that hand. I don't know if you can turn on your camera, if you want to turn on your camera and share either the views of the group, the discussion, or your own perspective.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, is that Mohit?
Yes, ma'am. I don't have
Okay.
option to turn on my camera.
Okay,
so
okay. I can hear you. I can hear you.
My point is similar to what Priyanshu said about misinterpretation of the text. So I think Derrida uses the image of a vulnerable animal because maybe he's trying to say that that text it needs to be it requires that we approach it with care and diligence because it is very easy for the readers to overlook minute but important details in a text, and a text is also vulnerable to misinterpretation. For example, religious texts have been used in the past for violence and to create divisions in society. So and as Derrida once said that he said it in an interview that he hasn't read a lot, but he has read very little, and whatever he has read it thoroughly. uh, in that way, he says that we need to look at text with diligence and care.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is probably why Derrida describes a text as a creature in withdrawal, because there are traces and traces of meaning in a text, and it is always delayed and deferred.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Let me respond. You are steering us toward the problem raised by Toro Moy. Remember, I put the name in the chat. Reading. Reading at the center of our discipline, our practice in literary studies. Reading is an activity and requires a form of attention. You're saying, Mohit, you're reading Derrida. You're saying, well, Derrida is using that striking image, that the animal poem, the vulnerable hedgehog, to try and say that approaching a text is amounts to a form of attention that we are not used to normally in daily life. We should approach it with care and diligence. In other words, I love the fact that you put care and diligence together, first of all, and I'll tell you why in a second. But before I get there, to approach a text with care, uh, means a form of attention to what can be easily overlooked. Can be easily overlooked. Care is, attached. It's about attachment. It's an affective attitude. And diligence. We approach a text with care, and diligence is a form of discipline. So I like the fact that you use diligence because it is about attention, a form of attention in which we should train ourselves. Yes, I think that's what Derrida is pointing to. Not to overlook things in the text, you said. Yes, I'm wondering whether your comment might productively help us understand that quotation in the prompt. The text calling its reader to protect it, to take care of it, and therefore to be, using your language, to be diligent with it. So there is something else I would like to try and say in response to your comment. What your comment invites is the following: an attitude of care and diligence is especially felt by people who feel they are in a hostile environment. It's those people who are in a hostile environment that most feel the need for care. So we begin to see, though through the metaphor of the animal, we begin to see the desire to imagine the text, to conceptualize the text, to theorize the text, use whatever verb you want, to theorize the text as something to be used also to respond to hostile environments. And this is a great shift in criticism, great shift, because it's not just about, commenting, evaluating, that is the individual single exegesis, the one-on-one tete-a-tete with the text because it's beautiful. That tete-a-tete, that individual, that one-on-one exegesis serves a purpose for the self. It almost has a healing effect on the self. I know this route of thought is rather complex, but you will encounter this kind of idea of the text in Eve Sedgwick as well, the founder of queer theory. We are going to encounter her work in the following days. Thank you for your contribution.